Good morning to you. Welcome back. It's Friday Coffee Talks, episode 112. I'm your host, Connor Volpe, and we're here talking over coffee on Friday. A little bit of a late start this morning, so apologize that it's not a Friday morning episode. It's more like a Friday early afternoon episode, but here we are. Before I talk about anything else, I got to shout out the Cincinnati Reds. My goodness, I'm rocking the Reds hat today. Little bit of mixed messages. Got the Atlanta jacket and the Reds hat. But did you watch the series between the Braves and the Reds this weekend? It was phenomenal. The Braves came out on top in 2 out of 3, won the series, but all 3 of those games could have gone either way. Could have just as easily been the Reds sweeping the Braves as it was the other way. What an offensive showing. I think they said that was the most home runs in a series in the history of Great American Ballpark. Wow. I mean, the offense was incredible. The Reds team is just out of nowhere phenomenal, like looking just strong as heck. The beginning of the season, all the news articles, everything on ESPN and MLB trade rumors, all the things that I read all the time, we're talking about how the Reds were down and out and blah, 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 rankings and stuff. But man, what a turnaround they've had. And what a great entertaining series it was. Ellie De La Cruz, oh my goodness, that guy is good. And Matt McLain, he's a bad dude. The Reds are building something, and they have a great team that's going to be around for a while. So proud to be a partial fan of the Reds, along with my Braves. Great series this weekend. Braves just rocking along. I love it. Can't wait to see Soroka pitch tonight. Coming back from Gwinnett. I love it. Can't wait to see it. It's going to be great. But today's episode is going to be a sales-focused one. I promise I won't just talk about baseball. And it's about something that is pretty important to me, pretty near and dear to my heart, and that is the topic of relational selling. It's something that, for me, in my everyday life is extremely important to me doing my job and doing it effectively. But also as somebody who's on LinkedIn a lot, like I am, I basically live on LinkedIn. There's one of my monitors always has LinkedIn up at all times. So not only am I a participant on LinkedIn, but I also, because of the algorithm, the people I'm paired with, connected with, the posts I interact with a lot, I see a lot of sales content on LinkedIn, and some of it is really good and some of it is not so great. I have my favorites and I've talked about them, and I have my not so favorites and I won't mention them, but it seems like, especially on LinkedIn, I guess I'm talking very specifically about LinkedIn. It seems like there's 2 camps. You've got the people on one side who are very into cold calls, and cold calls are great. Cold calls are part of life. They're not going anywhere. It's something that we have to do, but they're very into cold calls. They're very into statistics about cold calls, getting into meetings. Just pick up the phone is kind of the whole thing. Pick up the phone and dial it as many times as you possibly can. It's a pure numbers game of trying to get to as many people as you can, get through your pitch quickly, get to a no fast if it's the no, get to a meeting booked if it's a yes. And it's very cut and dry. It's very impersonal, very boom, boom, boom. I'm going to talk to you. There's going to be an outcome of this call, and then I'm going to move on to the next person. If that works for you, that's great. That's awesome. I'm all for everybody doing what's important to them, what works for them. That's fine. That doesn't happen to be my style. And I guess all of this is seen through the lens and the perspective of what I sell. I'm somewhat more of a full cycle account executive where I'm working projects from beginning to end. I'm not in a specific role in a portion of that sales cycle. So things are a little bit different in that type of role that I'm in. There's also a portion of what I'm going to talk about today, which is very specific to my industry. So I sell enterprise IT software. There are plenty of other sales things out there that do more commodity selling. They do more, they're in an industry where things are less differentiated. And so maybe that style of just pound the phones, pour through the contact lists and call as many people as you possibly can, maybe that works for them and that's fine. But in my day-to-day life, the things that I'm talking about are relational selling. And why is that important? So for me, building a relationship with my customers is the ultimate goal is not to be the best man at their wedding someday. It's not to be a godfather to their children. I'm not looking to, build a close personal friendship with my customers unless they want it. Like, I'm happy to be friends with people. That's great. I have plenty of customers who I like to go visit, just like I like to visit my friends. But the goal is not to be as personal of a relationship, it's to be a professional relationship. And the reason for that is because there's so much out there. Now, there are certainly customers who do all of their own research. They know all of the potential solutions in every area of the business that they cover. They know the market, they know the industry, they know the trends, they know the people, they know the products, the requirements, all that kind of stuff. And they go and they meticulously research their stuff. They keep up to date with everything. And those type of people, when it comes to making a buying decision on something, they can go out there and they can look and they can know exactly what they want and what it's going to do for them. That's great. If customers are able to do that, they can certainly do that, and no skin off my back. The difference is that there is so much out there. I mean, you even look at just my space, me and the handful of competitors that I go up against every day. There is so much information to know. There's so much tiny differentiators. There's so many things that this does better than this in this area, but this does better than that in these areas. And pricing changes all the time, and releases and patches and bug fixes and things. It's just always evolving. And I'm just one tiny little corner of this one industry that I'm in. There's so much out there for these IT directors and CIOs and CTOs that are out there running their businesses and trying to serve their customers the best they can. So that's where things like the great channel partners that we work with and salesmen like me come into play, where we are there for a purpose. We're there to help educate and to help teach people about the areas that we are experts in. And so that's why when I'm out prospecting, when I'm messaging people on LinkedIn, when I'm cold calling, when I'm cold emailing, I'm reaching out to people who I think may have a need for what I'm selling. And my ultimate goal is to build a relationship with them enough that they trust what I have to say. They trust my experience. They trust the things that I know, and that I can help guide them, educate them, advise them on things that they may not realize about not only my product, but my industry, my competitors, and all the things that go into that. So that's where the relational part comes into play. If I'm just cold calling and there's no next step, there's no stepping forward of a relationship, then it's useless to customers, because all of my expertise and my advice that I can provide to them that is valuable it just goes out the window, because it's a pure numbers game, and there's no trust building or relationship building behind it. What this all kind of boils down to is your approach when you're talking to customers. The kind of bottom line is, when you make it about you instead of making it about them, it's over. You've lost. You're not doing anything to bring value to your customer at that point. When you make it about you versus them, it's over. It's got to always be focused on the customer. That's what we're out here doing. It's got to be about the customer. And that's every part of the sales cycle, from the initial reach out, from the cold call, from the prospecting, from the introductory discovery meeting, whatever you want to call it, all the way through negotiations to pricing proposals and the signing on the dotted line, getting the purchase order, whatever you want to do. You have to keep it about the customer. On the front end, on that prospecting call, when you first reach out to them, they don't care about the feature list of your product, whatever it is. They don't care about how many gigs of RAM it has. They don't care about the numbers and the specs and the things like that. They care about what those things can do for them. How does it help me? What advantages does it give to me? What does it free my team up to go do? If your initial pitch call is listing out features, if it's talking about the nuts and bolts specifics of what your product does, it's not customer centric, and they won't care. The same way through the sales cycle. When it comes time to do a POC, the customer doesn't care about how long you can give them licenses for or gear. Especially when it comes to the end parts of sales and some of the more like nuanced art forms of sales, the customer does not care about your quota. Customer does not care about your financial year. The customer doesn't care about any of that stuff. The customer doesn't care that you're coming up to the end of the quarter. It doesn't matter to them. And honestly, it shouldn't, because it's not their problem. What they do care about is, can you get them the best price that they need to meet the budgets that are demanded of them or allocated to them by their higher ups? They care about how quickly can we deploy this product? How much of my team's resources are going to be devoted to getting this out and starting to see value from it? What's the return on investment? They care about the impact that it's going to have on their business. The impact on your business doesn't matter. Everybody's working toward a quota. We're trying to get everything done. That's how sales works. But that's your problem to manage, not your customers. So when you put on these like high pressure sales tactics of, hey, here's this, but my quarter ends now, so you've got to get the purchase order in by this date. I need the DocuSign, whatever you're doing, that's not customer centric, and it's drives a wedge between you and your customers because they don't care about any of that stuff. So all of this kind of is to say the boil it all down is, when you're interacting with your customers, every step through the sales cycle, whatever you're doing, my personal advice, again, there are other people who have a different opinion and they're entitled to that. But what I've seen to be successful for me is that you've got to keep it about them, not you. It's all about the stories of what this does for them, what the outcomes they can look forward to, what the savings that they're going to have are, all the advantages that it brings to the customer, not about anything that is important to you. So there's my sales tip of the week. Use it, don't use it, make fun of me, I don't care. Whatever you want to do, that's what I've found to be successful and what I'm going to continue to do. So enjoy some coffee. It looks like we have a kind of rainy weekend ahead. Not looking forward to that, but the Austrian Grand Prix is this week, so I'm looking forward to some great F1 practice. I think is going on right now, so looking forward to that. Thank you all for joining me. Have a great week. I'll catch you next time.